Late one evening, when the city lights were dimming and most people were settling into the comfort of routine, a quiet tragedy unfolded that would soon ripple across Hollywood and beyond. Two young girls, still caught between childhood and adulthood, went to sleep believing tomorrow would be just another day. By morning, their world had changed forever. Their father, Eric Dane, was gone. At just 53 years old, a life filled with talent, struggle, laughter, and love came to an abrupt and heartbreaking end, leaving behind grief, unanswered questions, and a future suddenly uncertain for the two people he loved most. For many around the world, Eric Dane was a familiar face on television screens, a man whose presence carried confidence, charm, and emotional depth. Audiences knew him as a character who saved lives, broke hearts, and commanded attention the moment he walked into a scene. But behind the fame, beyond the red carpets and camera flashes, he was first and foremost a father. Friends say that no role ever mattered more to him than being dad to his two daughters, Billy and Georgia. In private moments, away from Hollywood's noise, he was simply a man who wanted to protect his children, guide them, and watch them grow into their own lives. Months before his death, Eric made a decision that would redefine how the public saw him. He chose honesty over silence. He revealed that he had been diagnosed with ALS, a devastating neurological disease that slowly strips the body of its ability to move, speak, and function. It was a diagnosis that terrified his loved ones and stunned his fans, but Eric faced it with remarkable courage. Instead of retreating from the world, he stepped closer to it, speaking openly about his condition, his fears, and his determination to live meaningfully despite the prognosis. As the disease progressed, everyday tasks became battles. Walking grew difficult. Strength faded. Independence slipped away piece by piece. Yet even as his body weakened, his spirit did not. Those closest to him say he remained deeply present, emotionally engaged, and fiercely loving. His focus narrowed not on what he was losing, but on what mattered most: his children. Every decision, every conversation, every moment of energy he had left was filtered through one question: how will this affect Billy and Georgia? In the final months of his life, Eric became painfully aware that time was no longer luxury. He prepared for the inevitable with quiet resolve. He spoke to friends about his hopes for his daughters' futures, about the kind of people he wanted them to become, about the lessons he wished he could teach them in person. He worried not about fame or legacy, but about school events he wouldn't attend, milestones he wouldn't witness, and late-night conversations he wouldn't be there to have. When he passed away, the shock was immediate and profound. Messages of grief flooded social media. Fellow actors, colleagues, and fans shared memories of his kindness, his humor, and the warmth he brought into every room. But amid the tributes and heartbreak, one reality stood out sharply. Two teenage girls had lost their father far too soon. No amount of success or recognition could soften that loss. It was in those raw, painful days following his death that something deeply human happened. Eric's friends, people who had walked beside him through his illness, who had seen his devotion to his daughters firsthand, came together with a shared purpose. They knew grief alone would not be enough. Love needed action. And so, they launched a GoFundMe campaign, not out of charity, but out of responsibility and care. The goal was simple and profound: to support Billy and Georgia as they navigate a future without their father. The campaign was not framed as a headline or a spectacle. It was written with sincerity, acknowledging how rapidly ALS had taken Eric from those who loved him, and how determined he had been to ensure his children were cared for no matter what. The funds were intended to provide stability, education, daily needs, opportunities, and support, so that his daughters could grow without the constant shadow of financial uncertainty compounding their emotional pain. What happened next was a reminder of how powerful collective compassion can be. Donations began pouring in from all over the world. Some were large, others small, but each carried a message of solidarity. Fans who had never met Eric gave because they felt connected to him. Parents gave because they imagined their own children in Billy and George's place. People battling ALS or who had lost loved ones to it gave because they understood the cruelty of the disease all too well. Behind the scenes, Eric's former wife and the girl's mother stood as a pillar of strength. Though their romantic relationship had ended years earlier, family did not. She had been by Eric's side during his illness, helping coordinate care and ensuring that their daughters remained surrounded by love and honesty. Together, they chose to show their children unity rather than division, compassion rather than conflict. In doing so, they gave Billy and Georgia something invaluable, a sense of safety, even in loss. As days turned into weeks, the GoFundMe campaign became more than a fundraiser. It became a symbol of friendship that doesn't disappear when the cameras turn off, a symbol of community stepping in when life takes an unfair turn, and a symbol of a man whose impact reached far beyond his roles on screen. Eric's story also reignited conversations about ALS, a disease that remains widely misunderstood and tragically underfunded. Many who followed his journey admitted they had known little about it before. Through his openness, Eric educated without preaching, inspired without exaggeration, and humanized a condition often reduced to statistics. Even in his final chapter, he was giving something back. For Billy and Georgia, the road ahead will not be easy. Grief does not follow a schedule, and healing does not move in straight lines. There will be moments when they wish they could call their dad for advice, share a joke, or simply sit in silence with him. There will be milestones that hurt as much as they heal. But there will also be reminders everywhere. Stories from friends, messages from strangers, and the knowledge that their father was deeply loved. In many ways, the GoFundMe campaign ensures that Eric's love continues to protect his daughters in a tangible way. It is not about replacing what was lost, because nothing can. It is about honoring a father's deepest wish, that his children be supported, safe, and given every chance to thrive. As we reflect on this story, it forces us to confront uncomfortable truths about life. That time is fragile, that health is never guaranteed, that the people we love can be gone in an instant. But it also reminds us of something equally powerful, that kindness endures, that communities can rise in moments of darkness, and that love does not end when a life does. Eric Dane's legacy is not confined to television history or memorable performances. It lives on in the values he showed, the courage he displayed, and the devotion he had to his daughters. It lives on in every person who chooses to help, to care, and to stand with a family in need. And as Billy and Georgia move forward, carrying both the pain of loss and the strength of support, they do so knowing that their father mattered, not just as an actor, but as a human being whose life touched countless others. In the end, that may be the most powerful role he ever played.